Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing. And today we've got a new load that we've never tested on the channel, and I'm definitely excited to see what it can do since it's a little bit of an older load that I don't think they actually produce or sell anymore. So I'm definitely curious to see how it does, considering that the more modern version of this shell is typically a pretty decent performer. So maybe we might be able to get some good results from these as well. But as for the load I brought here today, I got some of these, the old Federal Premium Vital-Shok buckshot load. But these ones are a 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 34 pellet load of 4 buck, moving about 1250 feet per second. I don't think Federal sells these or makes these anymore, and I don't even know that I've seen a 34 pellet 4 buck load from them even in all of their lineup today. These are a copper plated buckshot load as well, but I don't think they have the flight control wad. And if I had to guess, the copper plated lineup probably replaced these. So can they actually perform as good as some of the newer copper plated loads? I don't know. Should be a pretty interesting load to test. But as for the setup we're going to run them through, I brought out my Remington 870 special purpose. It's got a 24-inch Carlson's barrel on it right now. And for the choke, as we typically do here, we're going to start with a stock full choke. This particular one measures out at a 688 constriction, and generally it's a pretty good starting point with the vast majority of buckshot loads, because you can always go up or down in constriction from there based on what you see. So we'll start with the full choke for today's test. But as for today's test, everything is going to be set up the same as we usually do it for these buckshot loads. We've got the big sheet of paper set up at 40 yards and the chronograph so we can get our velocity, as well as the templates that we can lay up over our target when we go check out our results. Taking one shot at 40 yards through one choke might not be the perfect test necessarily, but it's going to give us an idea of what we're working with nonetheless. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see how the old Vital-Shok 34 pellet 4 buck shells can do. Alright, that shell gave us 1219 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1250, so we were just a little bit under that claim, but that does make sense for a 24-inch barrel, so looking perfectly fine for a velocity up here. But how do they perform down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now for reference, the paper's 36 inches wide by probably about 44 inches tall or so. The white dot was my point of aim, so we did hit just a touch high with our pattern, but we do still have all 34 pellets on the paper here, so we can see everything. And right off the bat, it's not too bad. Now, have we seen tighter from a 4 buck shell? Yes, we absolutely have. But for a starting point here, we've got a pretty nice even spread. It's not completely just all over the place at 40 yards. We can keep it to a pretty decent spread here, and it's definitely a usable combination just like it is here. Now I did measure the farthest 2 points across, which is pretty much from that top pellet up there in the center of your screen to the bottom pellet down there, gave us right at a 34-inch spread, and left to right here it's right at a 33.5-inch spread. So it's pretty much about a perfect circle as far as overall spread size goes. Again, we've definitely seen tighter, but not terrible. You don't have a ton of massive voids in here. There might be one right over here, kind of in the center of your screen, but we've got a good number of pellets surrounding it. It's just a little bit more of a broad pattern than it is a super tight condensed pattern. So now let's throw a couple templates up and get a little better reference as to how it performed. So first up here is our 10-inch circle, and since we were just a touch high on the paper, I did move it just a touch above my point of aim there so we could see what the core actually looks like. And we had 4 pellets within a 10-inch circle at 40 yards. Definitely not the best we've seen, but I don't think it really would have made any massive difference no matter where we put it. It probably would have been 4 or 5 pellets, maybe 6 if we moved it around a little bit. And you can see the little void over there on the right side that I was mentioning a second ago. So not anything that's going to blow us away as far as our core goes at 40, but it's still good enough to do the job. But let's throw some animal templates up and see how it would look in a hunting scenario. Alright, so here's our deer template, and I do know that not everybody uses 4 buck for deer. Some people do prefer the bigger shot sizes like a double-aught shell or something like that. But 4 buck, within its respective ranges, is still more than capable of doing the job, and this pattern would have absolutely taken that deer. I did favor the template just a touch high since our pattern was high again, and you would have had at least 19 and kind of a half pellet down there in the bottom that would have hit this deer at 40 yards. Absolutely would have taken him down. down, no question about it. But you can see that it is a little bit more of a broad spread of pellets. You do cover a good majority of your deer there. So this would make a decent like deer drive setup with thicker woods where your typical shots are going to be 30 yards, maybe 40 yards or so, and you want a little more leeway on a moving deer. That right there would absolutely do the job. As far as a stationary tree stand hunt, you'd probably want your pattern just a touch tighter than that, just to make your life easier as far as meat damage goes or pulling pellets out of your shoulder meat or anything like that. So not bad overall. It's a good starting point and we can work from here off of it. But let's throw the hog template up for you hog hunters as well and see what that looks like. And here's that hog template, and it's pretty much the same story. Absolutely a dead hog all day long. That pattern would make for a pretty decent run and gun type of scenario with them. If you're on the back of a truck, chasing them around or something like that, that would absolutely get it done. And for you predator hunters, I don't have a coyote template just yet, but a coyote would be just a touch smaller than this hog template, and it would do perfectly fine for those guys as well. So overall, not a bad starting point. I definitely think we can probably get a little bit tighter of a spread from these through maybe a touch more constriction. 4-buck seems to like chokes in that 680-ish constriction range, so I think moving down just a touch to an extra full choke or something like that might tighten these up just a hair, but it's absolutely usable just the way it is. With a factory full choke out to 40 yards, you're going to be just fine for whatever you would want to use this for. So we're not off to a terrible start here, and we've definitely got a little bit more room to improve as well, so looking pretty decent as for a pattern today. And here's the wad from that shell. Definitely not a flight control wad. I didn't think these had it in there. It wasn't advertised or anything. But it's a pretty basic design overall. Nothing fancy to see. There's nothing stuck down in there or no major damage. We might have had just a touch worth of snagging up here on the very tips of the pedals, but it's nothing major or nothing too unusual to see. So we know we should have a pretty decent wad here that should be able to control these. And we're definitely not over constricting them or anything yet. So we should be able to get a little tighter choke and a little bit tighter pattern out of these too if we wanted to. So nothing special as far as the wad goes. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that result right there? I think it's definitely a pretty decent middle of the road performance. We have seen tighter out of 4-buck shells previously, but that is still absolutely a usable pattern just the way it is. You really don't have much as far as flyers go. You've got one little void right here kind of on the right side of your core area, but it's nothing too detrimental overall. Out to 40 or maybe 50 yards, it's still going to do just fine for whatever you would need it for. And I definitely think that with a little bit different of a choke, maybe a little bit tighter constriction, or who knows, maybe the True Lock Bore Blaster or the Kicks Butt Kicker choke might really perform well with these. I definitely think we've got a little bit of room still to tighten these up, but for just a standard full choke, we've got a good base to work off of. So as always, leave your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Vital-Shok 34 pellet 4-buck loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Is that a pattern or combo that you would hunt with? And what other chokes do you want to see us run those shells through that you think might be some good performers? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.